Good afternoon, Tom Ginn. G is for gratitude. G is for gratitude. I believe gratitude, what I consider is I call it the mortar between the bricks of life. No matter what's happening in our life, we can always go to a space of gratitude, change our perspective, even in a time of a loss. We just recently lost a true mentor of mine in life last Friday, Bob Proctor, and I went to a space of gratitude first. It was a shock and a hurt, but when we understand the power of gratitude, it brings us to a place that so that we can deal with those things more effectively. So gratitude is a very powerful principle, and today I'm super grateful to have our guest on today, and he's going to bring a new perspective to you. And I'm just going to introduce my guest right now. Bob Burg is a renowned international speaker as well as an author. He's the co-author of the best-selling book, The Go-Giver. This book was given to me as a gift, by the way. I just found out today from a mutual friend. So there's a small world out there. And when I started reading this book, I started applying it in my coaching. I started applying it in my life. And the principles here are phenomenal. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring in Bob Burg. Are you ready, Bob? I see a big smile back there.
Absolutely, Tom. Filled with the G-force, gratitude.
Yeah, thank you for being here today. It's really a small world, and I have to drop the name of Jeanette Chambers and Jennifer Gilman to sort of put this whole thing together. The universe works by law, and I believe there's a reason we're here today. Okay. And thank you for being here today. And in the next 30 minutes or so, it's really about, a little bit about yourself. I think it's important for people to know your journey to where you are. Any secrets besides what you've been writing about that you would like to leave our audience. But today we're really talk about the principles of the go-giver. So Bob, it's all yours. A little bit about yourself and what inspired you to become an author? I think that's important.
Well, I had graduated from broadcasting. I was in radio and then television, and graduated into sales, and really knew nothing about sales on a formal level. And so I floundered for the first few months until I came across some books on selling, and this is more than 40 years ago now. One of them was by Zig Ziglar, and one was by Tom Hopkins, two of the true icons of the selling space. And from that point on, life changed for me. First, in terms of sales, I now had a methodology. I had a system to be able to use. And personally, I define a system as the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles. The key being predictability. If it's been proven that by doing A, you'll get the desired result of B, then you know that all you need to do is A and continue to do A and continue to do A, and you'll eventually get the desired result of B. So really within a few weeks, my sales began to go through the roof because I now had a methodology, a way of doing it. But really what turned me on the most about it was the personal development aspect of being in sales, because aside from the how-to, which is very, very important, it's really about building yourself on the inside. I think we all know that success is an inside job. We build ourselves on the inside. Success manifests itself on the outside. And really that's what began to happen. So I started to get all the books that you have on your bookshelf, and most of your viewers and listeners have on theirs: the How to Win Friends and Influence People, and the Magic of Thinking Big, and Think and Grow Rich, and the Richest Man in Babylon, all the classics, right? And just never stopped. And eventually I worked my way up to sales manager of another company. And after a while, I started to teach others how to sell, and it morphed into a business and began speaking. And that's really how it all began. Had a book out called Endless Referrals. And then that eventually I teamed up with John David Mann, a fantastic writer and entrepreneur. And we wrote The Go-Giver.
I just, and then we'll get into the book here a little bit specifically about the laws that you've outlined in the story, and I got a couple of questions. But you made a comment that I think really important is, you started out in sales, but you've moved into recognizing that it's personal development, belief systems. That's what I've been in sales since, I'm going to date myself a little bit, since 1983, and processes and how-tos and all that are important, but it's really about belief systems and self-confidence, self-image. And many times people are stuck in that arena because they may have a paradigm or a belief system doesn't support an outcome that they desire. And that's where I came in. And I'm glad I got some personal mentor by some very significant people to help understand that my fullest potential is controlled by how I think.
Yeah, and I think one of the best books in that regard, and your mentor Bob Proctor, I believe it was one of his favorites, and that is Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, and that was really the first book that showed me that it's our beliefs, but not just our beliefs, our unconscious beliefs, right?
Exactly.
Which really dictates where we're going to go, because we just simply can never achieve more than our most limiting belief. And, I know Bob was also a big fan of The Science of Getting Rich. I bought my first copy of that book from Bob, that he had put together after because the copyright had run out. And so people put together, different versions of The Science of Getting Rich. And I got my first one from Bob. And that's a book that, that really helps get past the paradigms, the money issues and all those unconscious things that can hold people back. So yeah, absolutely. It's really being able to look at things in a different way and see what we had not seen before. I think what it really is Tom, it's taking the unconscious and making it conscious. Because it's only when we understand that we have an issue that we're in a position to be able to do something about it. And we simply can't do that when we don't know we have one, when it's unconscious.
You hit it on the nail. And those that are out there listening is that, share this out, tag and share, because we never know who we're going to influence by one thing that Bob says that causes people to go, oh, maybe I should look further into what it's going to take to succeed, get outside of our own perspective in life. So we've got a number of comments. I just want to recognize a few people before we get going. Hey, Bob, Robert, thanks. Jeanette's on. So she's on here. Ted, good friend down in Chicago. And I know there's a lot of people out here watching this and sharing it. And I just encourage you to make any comments or have a question as we go through here. I'd be glad to address that. But let's talk about this book. Many times when we're in sales or personal development, we're looking for what I call a process. You mentioned a process. A will give a result that you're looking for. That's the process.
Cause and effect. Yeah, exactly.
Cause and the effect. But this book, let's talk about this book, because it's in a story. And my first question for you is, who's Joe? Well, the story of Joe in this book, and then we'll move into the laws and share a little bit about how this book is to be used for that growth.
Yeah. So Joe is the main character in the book. He's the protagonist. He's the young, up and coming, ambitious, aggressive salesperson, good guy, but his focus is totally in the wrong place. His focus is on himself. And his focus is on making his quota, which is fine in and of itself, except Joe doesn't realize that nobody's going to buy from him because he has a quota to meet, right? They're going to buy from him because they believe it's in their best interest to do so. And that's only going to happen when they understand that Joe is absolutely, totally laser focused on bringing value to them. So who is Joe? We're all Joe at one time or another. Right? We're all that person starting out who has that potential and has the desire and has the drive, but maybe doesn't have their focus where it needs to be.
I look at it before, going back to 83, I've been in sales and marketing and running my own businesses all these years. And, timing is everything. But this is 40 years ago. This book. When was this book published?
Well, this book was published in real, for all intents and purposes, 2008. It was actually December 27th, 2007. So by the time it got on the bookshelves, back when they were actually bookshelves, right? Not just Amazon, but it was Amazon too. It was early 2008.
Yeah, in my early careers, it was about a transactional approach, about me and about the transaction versus what you're talking about here. Who is Joe? Who do you show up as? Can we move right into this right here?
Sure. And the 5 laws of stratospheric success is based on a premise. Okay. And the basic premise, Tom, is that shifting your focus, right, which is what Joe needed to learn how to do, shifting your focus from getting to giving. Now, when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, understanding that doing so is not only a more pleasant way, a more fulfilling way of conducting business, it's the most financially profitable way as well. Again, not for any magical, mystical, woo-woo type of reasons. It makes logical sense that when you're that person who can move your focus off of yourself and onto serving others, discovering what they need, what they want, what they desire, what problems they need to overcome and need your help in doing, helping to bring someone closer to happiness, your focus being on them, people feel good about you. People want to be in relationship with you. They know you, they like you, they trust you, they want to do business with you, they want to tell others about you. And so the 5 laws, begins with the law of value. And the law of value says your true worth, in the business sense, of course, your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Now, this sounds, when you first hear it, kind of like a recipe for bankruptcy. Give more in value than you take in payment, until you understand the difference between price and value. Price is a dollar figure. It's a dollar amount. It's finite. It is what it is, right? Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, what have you, that brings so much worth or value to another person that they will willingly exchange their money for that and be glad they did, while you make a very healthy profit. A very quick example would be the person you hire to do your taxes, right? An accountant who charges you, we'll just name a round figure, $1,000. That's her fee, literally her price, $1,000. But what value does she give you in exchange? Well, she saves you $5,000 in your taxes. She saves you countless hours of time, and she provides you and your family with the security and the peace of mind of knowing it was done correctly. So she's actually given you well over $5,000 in value in exchange for $1,000 price. So she gave you more in value than she took in payment. You feel great about it, and she made a very healthy profit. In fact, in any free market-based exchange, and when I say free market, I simply mean no one is forced to do business with anyone else. In any free market-based exchange, there should always be 2 profits: the buyer profits and the seller profits, because each of them come away better off afterwards than they were beforehand. So that's basically the law of value.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
Very much so.
A win-win.
Yeah.
We have Jeanette is put out telling her team that we're associated with together to make sure that they get your book. So we're promoting your book as we're going here.
Thank you, Jeanette. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of great people in this list right here. And then Robert Booker is making some comment, So thanks, Robert. So let's talk about the next, the law. This is something I learned through this process of the inside work, the development, that everything operates by law, our thinking, our belief systems. And when we're stuck and frustrated or whatever, many times we just don't understand that the laws are out of order. The universe operates within order. And I love this next one here that you bring up, the law of compensation. And a lot of people don't realize there's a law around that. Bob Proctor talked about it a lot, and other people as well. Love to hear your perspective, what you're talking about in the book here about the law of compensation.
So the law of compensation says your income is determined by how many people you serve, as well as how well you serve them. So where law number one says to give more in value than you take in payment, law number two tells us that the more people whose lives you touch with the exceptional value you provide, the more money with which you'll be rewarded. Nicole Martin, the CEO in the story, one of the mentors, advised Joe, the protege, that the law of value represents your potential income. But serving one person, no matter how great the value you provide, probably isn't enough to earn a very healthy income. Law number two is all about how many lives you impact with that value. So we could say that exceptional value, law number one, and significant reach, law number two, equals very high compensation.
Wonderful, wonderful. And the next law that is, a lot of people today is I think that many times they're taking some of these laws and not using them properly. But this one here, I really like you to talk a little bit about the law of influence. And what does that really mean? Because a lot of times people use the influence of others in the wrong way. Can you share with your perception in the book here?
Well, the law of influence says that your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Again, sounds kind of counterintuitive, maybe even Pollyanna-ish when you first hear it. Then you think about it. The greatest leaders, the top influencers, the consistently highest money-earning salespeople, this is how they run their lives and conduct their businesses. They're always looking out for the other person's interests. Now, let me clarify and qualify something, because this can easily be misunderstood, and I think it's very important. When we say place the other person's interests first, we certainly don't mean you should be anyone's doormat or a martyr or self-sacrificial in any way. Absolutely not at all. It's simply understanding, as Joe learned from several of the mentors, the golden rule of business, of sales, is that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And there's no faster, more powerful, or more effective way to elicit these feelings toward you from others than by genuinely moving from what we call an I focus or me focus to an other influence, looking to, as Sam, one of the mentors, advised Joe, make your win all about the other person's win.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the when I hear, I just bubble all inside hearing what you're sharing, and and come to learn these things over years. I mean, a lot of what you're teaching today wasn't brought up 40 years ago,
Right.
and it's this type of information, and really being able to use it the way the laws are intended to be used, we can have that abundance that we're all seeking, not just economically, but the quality of life and relationships. And
Well, it's all harmonious, right? It's and one thing about universal laws, and again, your mentor Bob Proctor taught this, is that a law that works in one area of life, if it's a law, if it's a principle, tends to work across the board. So when we look at success, there's success in terms of financial, physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, social, relational, and all sorts. Well, when you're utilizing the Go-Giver principles, and again, these are not laws that John and I made up. I mean, these are they're laws. It's like Jim Rohn used to say, beware the person coming to offer you new fundamentals, right? There's no such thing as new fundamentals. They're fundamentals because they're very old, right? And they're principles. So utilizing these principles, exactly, your quality of life in all the different areas of success will be.
Yeah, you're speaking of that, what you just said. I'll just say this. Bob Proctor shared this, is that the laws are non-man-made. Just like you said, if a man said, I got the new idea, I got the new way, that's a man-made. true laws are non-man-made. They are universal principles that controls how we all operate in this
Mhm.
beautiful space of life. So, would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And as Bob used to say, when it comes to a universal law, you can embrace it or you can ignore it. What you can never do is alter it. And I think successful people tend to live in truths, right? They see the world first as it is. They understand the laws of nature, the laws of physical nature, the laws of human nature, the laws of economic nature. And they don't try to change those laws because laws can't be changed. Now, what they do is they embrace those truths and then they work within those laws in order to advance the world, advance themselves, advance others. But we always need to begin with embracing truths.
Yeah, great clarity on that. And the next one is this one. This one here, a lot of people wear many different masks in life, but ultimately our authenticity really will show up either in the physical form by actions, or it's going to show up in a way that we communicate at a subconscious level.
Yeah.
Authenticity. What is Joe being taught here in the book about authenticity?
Yeah, the law of authenticity says the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. And in this part of the story, Deborah Davenport, the very successful realtor, she shared a very important lesson, and that is all the skills in the world, the sales skills, technical skills, people skills, as important as they are, and they are indeed very, very important, they're also all for naught if you don't come at it from your true, authentic core. However, when you show up as yourself day after day, week after week, month after month, people feel very comfortable with you. People feel good about you. People feel safe with you. And why wouldn't they? They know who they're getting. And this is very important when it comes to relationships, when it comes to trust, because as human beings, we have a need to both to ourselves, to be consistent and appear consistent. Robert Cialdini talks about that in his great book, Influence, Science and Practice. But we also have a need for those we trust to be consistent. And there's nothing that will damage trust like not being consistent. Okay. So one of the things about authenticity is as well is I think many people interpret authentic or authenticity as simply having no boundaries, right? As though that, say whatever you want to say, and this is who I am, take it or leave it, and which is a good philosophy if you don't want to have any healthy relationships and if you don't want to do particularly well in business. But since that's not what most of us want, no, that's not authenticity. That's like the person who says, well, I have anger issues and I yell at people a lot, and if I were to act any differently, that wouldn't be authentic. That's baloney. That's malarkey. It simply means that person has an authentic problem that person needs to authentically work on in order to become a better, higher, more effective, authentic version of themselves. So, we never want to use the word, the concept of authenticity to stop growing and to stay where we are, but use it as an impetus to step into our higher selves. I think that authenticity can be defined very easily as acting congruently with your values.
Exactly.
When you do that, you're authentic.
Yeah, that great point. And I would call that your your heart, who you really are, the values that you have
Sure.
on life, in life, and you're walking the talk as well. You're not just putting on a mask
Right.
to do that, but it comes across in everything you do, So great point, law of authenticity. And it doesn't mean putting all your dirty laundry out there either, right?
That's right. Yeah, people confuse, that authenticity with transparency, as though you've got to let everything. No, you don't. There's times it's appropriate and there's times it's not. And wisdom is knowing the difference, right? But authenticity does not mean you just let it all hang out and the whole thing. It's understanding the way things are, and again, going back to what your values are and acting in such a way.
Great. And this one here, the law of excuse me, here's my dyslexia jumping in here. Receptivity. So there we go. It's just trying to show me something else in my mind. So
yeah, and this says the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. And this really means nothing more than understanding that, yeah, you breathe out, but you also have to breathe in. It's not one or the other. You breathe out carbon dioxide, you breathe in oxygen. You breathe out, which is giving, you breathe in, which is receiving. Giving and receiving, despite the horrible anti-prosperity lack messages we get from the world around us on a constant basis, pretty much from the time we're born, and everything in schooling and on TV and movies and everything, the horrible messages. Despite that, the fact is giving and receiving are not opposite concepts. Giving and receiving are simply two sides of the very same coin, and they work in tandem. It's not, are you a giver or a receiver? That's the false dilemma, right? The unnecessary use of the word or. No, you're a giver and a receiver. But what you realize is that the giving comes first, the giving of value to others. Again, it goes back to living in truths. Universal law, the laws of nature are that we plant before we harvest. We sow before we reap. We give before we receive. John David Mann, my awesome co-author of the Go Giver in the series, in Go Giver Sell More, we wrote that money is simply an echo of value. Money is an echo of value. It's the thunder to value's lightning, which means nothing more than that the value must come first. That must be your focus, the value you're giving others. The money you receive is a very natural result of the value you've provided. But once you've set that in motion, okay, once you've created that, what we call the benevolent context for success, you've got to remain open to that receiving. And that's why I'm a big believer that prosperity is a topic that must be studied proactively, because again, we get all the garbage from everywhere around us, right? And there are great prosperity teachers out there. There are, there's people who blog on this, who write on it, who do podcasts on it. And, there are people like Randy Gage. There are people, Bob Proctor, of course, was just one of the world's best, and students of his like David Nagel, and then there's people like Ellen Rogan and Sharon Lecter and Ken Honda, and so many just fantastic teachers of prosperity who live in prosperity. And I believe we need to study them and get the good stuff in our mind. And gratitude is, as because you teach this, has so much to do with allowing ourselves to receive. And, that was of course, one of Wallace D. Wattles' biggest points in his 1910 classic, The Science of Getting Rich, that gratitude positions us closer to the source of all good things. So the more we can stay in a state of gratitude, the more we have things working for us.
Bob, you're saying you're just hitting so many poignant points about, mentioning some other people and those things that are so important. And I look in your background, they're all the books you have. And then you probably have a library is at least as big as Bob Proctor's. I saw his library. Yeah. It's amazing.
I would imagine it was. I often do say that my house is comprised of books with some scattered furniture. I love the books part.
Yeah. And what you mentioned there is these principles are learned, and there's a what I call a thread when we look at people's success. When you look at we can look at a Bob Proctor, we can look at any other person that we look up to and say, wow, they are doing something very significant and purposeful. And what we end up finding out, they all have a common thread. They may be communicating a little bit different, a little different perspective, but they're working with what you just shared today is the laws. And they're just putting it out in a different context, a different lens, maybe,
Yeah.
those type of things. And I totally believe those that read, there's more than just reading. It's learning how to what? Put it into action. I think we're
Well,
talking,
so key. Yeah, absolutely.
got to put it into action and be willing to risk, because taking something new, we may stumble and fall, right, as we learn and embrace these things. And I just appreciate, you know, your book. I mean, it resonates with me through all the things that I've read. You mentioned the Science of Getting Rich and those principles, and it's one of hundreds of books I have in my library as well. I like what you said about you scattered with a little bit of furniture. But anything else? I know we're running down to the time here. I just want to make sure that we don't have any outstanding comments. That Robert has a litany of things that will be up. Tag and share this out. But Bob, one thing I would ask of you, you've been in the sales business and training and development, and now an author and helping people, give people a roadmap for success in a profound way.
Thank you.
What would be one thing you think holds people back? And I'm going to take this one off the table. As a lot of people say, fear is the number one, and I believe it's not the number one thing that holds people back. But what would you say was the thing that people have that if once they can conquer that, they can open the gate? What would that might be?
Oh, I believe it would be our beliefs. It's the belief in terms of how we see the world, how we understand the world. And those beliefs dictate our expectations, and our expectations are going to dictate the results.
Yeah. Belief. Absolutely. You pretty much hit something. I use the thing is the power of your vision at an emotional level, the belief systems of your worthiness, the vision is how you want to show up in the world is so important. Yeah. And I thank you very much for that comment. And I believe this is, a great mentor that is in one of our groups, Glenn Morshower. I don't know if you know who he is, but he says it's our nature to be successful. It's our nature to achieve. It's our nature. We don't strive to have goals to become successful. We've got to embrace it today, now.
I love that.
Yeah. So, and this is my Tom Ginn-ism, is that the threads of our thoughts determine the garments we wear. And I appreciate you coming on today. Gratitude. This will be a memory for me. And I'd love to have you back on again if you're ever open for that, because
I love it.
My whole mission is to help people bring new level of awareness. That's where you move for change, is only being aware that there are different paths than the one they're on. So I appreciate you coming on today. Anything else you'd like to share?
No, just want to say thank you. It's been a joy, and you're a fantastic host. Made it a lot of fun, and I thank everybody who tuned in for watching. I wish everybody the best of continued stratospheric success.
Wonderful. I'm going to roll it out, and I'm just going to put you in the back room for a moment, if you don't mind, if you got a minute. Okay. Bob Burg, I highly encourage you to get his books, and I'm going to make sure that everybody has that banner up real quick here of how to find out about The Go Giver, His websites, his contact information is all there for you. So everybody, today, gratitude. Take this moment. This is the very most important moment of your life. This moment, how we view it with gratitude determines what's going to happen in the next moment. This is the best day of your life. Embrace it and carry it for you. And Bob, thanks much for being here today. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you next week.